Before I dive into this unbelievable story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because what I'm about to tell you is something you'll never hear anywhere else. It's wild, it's true, and it will leave you shaking your head at just how far a corrupt WA can go when they think they can bully the wrong guy, especially when that guy just happens to be the chief of police. It all started on what seemed like a normal Saturday morning. I was out front mowing my lawn, sipping my coffee in between passes, and waving to neighbors when suddenly two black SUVs rolled into my cul-de-sac, tinted windows, no plates, and four men jumped out dressed in uniforms that at first glance looked official, but my years in law enforcement made me instantly suspicious. The badges were too shiny, the patches on the sleeves didn't match any department in the state, and their holsters hung too low like props from a costume shop. They stormed up my driveway with the confidence of people who believed they were untouchable, shouting that they were officers of the Homeowners Enforcement Authority, and that I was under arrest for repeated violations of WA code. Apparently, my grass was half an inch too tall, my flagpole was unauthorized, and my driveway had a non-compliant crack. I almost laughed in their faces, but I played along, asking to see their credentials, knowing full well that the second they opened their mouths, their scam would unravel. One of them shoved a laminated card at me that looked like it had been printed on a home inkjet printer. Misspelled words, no holograms, no state seal, just a fake badge number and the words, Neighborhood Security Division. My suspicion turned into anger when another one reached for his cuffs and tried to grab my arm like he thought he could really detain me on my own property. That's when I stood tall, squared my shoulders, and with the calm authority I've used in hundreds of arrests, I said, "Gentlemen, you're under arrest for impersonating police officers." The look on their faces was priceless, like deer caught in headlights. But here's where it got interesting. They didn't run. Instead, the man who seemed to be their leader smirked and said, "You don't understand. We own this neighborhood, and you don't outrank us here." My blood boiled, but I kept my composure. I told them to put their hands where I could see them, and when they didn't, I whistled sharply, the signal I use with my K9 partner, Thor, who was lounging on the porch. Thor leapt into action, barking ferociously, and the fake officers instantly froze, clearly not expecting a trained police dog to be part of the equation. While Thor held them in check, I slipped inside, grabbed my service weapon, my badge, and called dispatch. Within minutes, 3 real patrol cars screeched into the neighborhood, lights flashing. The imposters' bravado melted away as my officers surrounded them, but here's where the twist came. The WA president herself came running down the street, waving her arms and screaming that this was all a misunderstanding, and that these men were contractors, hired for special enforcement. But I knew better. We ran their IDs and found out not only were they not licensed security, but 2 of them had outstanding warrants in neighboring states, one for fraud and another for aggravated assault. The WA president started crying, begging me not to press charges, claiming she didn't know about their past, but I knew a setup when I saw one. Later, during interrogation, one of the imposters confessed that the WA board had paid them under the table to teach me a lesson, because I had refused to comply with their outrageous demands to repaint my house in an approved color scheme, and stop parking my patrol car in my own driveway. Because it made the neighborhood look like a crime zone. What they didn't count on was that I was not just a resident, I was the chief of police, with the full backing of the law behind me. But the twists didn't end there. When we raided the WA office, we found files on dozens of homeowners, illegal fines, threats, even evidence that the board had been embezzling funds for years, using intimidation tactics to silence anyone who dared speak out. It turned out my so-called grass violation was just the tip of the iceberg. They had been running the WA like a cartel, hiring muscle to enforce bogus rules, funneling money into offshore accounts, and blacklisting families who resisted until they were forced to sell their homes at a loss. The deeper we dug, the worse it got. Fake liens, illegal surveillance cameras hidden around the neighborhood, and even wiretapped phone calls of board meetings where they openly joked about bankrupting retirees. Every shred of evidence made my stomach turn, but it also steeled my resolve. The board thought they could use scare tactics to silence me, but they picked the wrong man. I had sworn an oath to protect and serve, and now that duty extended to my neighbors. We built a case, and within months, the district attorney brought charges not just against the fake officers but the entire WA board: racketeering, fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, and conspiracy. The trial was a media circus, with reporters camped outside the courthouse, cameras flashing as the disgraced president and her cronies were led inside in handcuffs. They tried to spin it, claiming they were just enforcing community standards, but the jury didn't buy it. They were found guilty on nearly every count, and the judge didn't go easy. Lengthy prison sentences, massive fines, and an order to dissolve the HOA entirely. The neighborhood finally breathed free, homeowners banded together, and for the first time in years, people felt safe and respected. But here's the part that sticks with me. On the day of sentencing, the ringleader of the fake officers turned to me and muttered, "You might have won this round, Chief, but we'll be back." Whether it was an empty threat or a hint at something bigger, I'll never forget it. Maybe it was bravado, maybe it was a warning, but one thing's certain: if anyone tries to pull something like that again, they'll find out fast that I'm not just a homeowner, I'm the chief of police, and no HOA, no matter how corrupt, will ever intimidate me or my community again. So if you want more jaw-dropping stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, because trust me, what happens in suburbia is sometimes wilder than what happens on the streets.